Dead Island 2. A game that was announced way back in 2014 and has since changed developers 2 more times. A game that has had no new gameplay, no trailers, no marketing material released since 2014. I mean, you'd think by now everyone would have stopped caring, but man, everyone's talking about Dead Island 2. It's making its way back into the gaming news circles. To be honest, it's mostly based on rumors, and we'll get into that. I mean, you've got a bunch of YouTube videos being released. You've got 4 articles by Games Radar that say the exact same thing, and you guys may not know this, but I was one of the original Dead Island 2 news channels here on YouTube. It's something that I pride myself on. I've put out a lot of information about this game, and I like to think I'm a pretty reliable source of information. So I figured, why not dive into this, dissect it, and just give you the no bullshit, just overview of what you can expect with the Dead Island 2 news situation. There are 3 main pieces of Dead Island 2 news that the outlets have been covering recently, although there is a sneaky little 4th one that nobody seems to be talking about. So number 1 is that the game is still in active development. That's it, really. Deep Silver have just officially confirmed that. And they have been confirming this for years now on Twitter, replying and saying, hey, you know, we're still working on it, but they are fully standing behind it and saying, look, we are actively developing it. Things are in motion, so that's a pretty good start. Now, the second piece of news is that the Embracer Group, which is the parent company that owns Deep Silver, recently held an equity meeting for shareholders, and the CEO was asked, hey, what's going on with Dead Island 2? What's happening with that game? And in response to these shareholders, he basically said, we're still working on the game, it's very much alive and in active development, and I'm expecting a release in the next financial year, which means he's expecting the game to release by March 2023. That's a pretty big deal, but it still doesn't confirm anything. It was taken from a shareholder meeting. It was said by the CEO of the company that owns Deep Silver, who owns Dambuster Studios, who's currently developing the game. Look, he may be wanting it to release by the next financial year. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it is a good thing to keep in mind. You know, he is making this promise to shareholders, and there's going to be a certain amount of pressure to deliver by that date. So, hey, it's still possible. Now, the third piece of information is that industry insider Tom Henderson made a YouTube video where he talked about how he got some leaked info. You know, he knows some of the people who are working on Dead Island 2, and that they've said the game is in a healthy state, you know, things are going well, progress is going well, and that the game is due for a release in Q4 2022, later this year. And hey, if this is true, I mean, that does align with what the CEO said, you know, releasing it by March 2023, so this is very, very possible, but it's not confirmed. As much as I would love for this to be true, we can't just go off of one guy saying, oh yeah, my friend told me. My friends in the industry, they told me this. Until we get official confirmation from Deep Silver, from Dambuster Studios, until we see another trailer, until we get an actual release date and we just see some kind of concrete information, you know, you can't just take people at their word for this stuff. And hey, one of the things that Tom Henderson did say is that he's expecting a trailer to release soon. So if that does happen, absolutely, you know, we'll be covering it and talking about it, and then everything will actually be concrete. Because when you think about it, we haven't seen any gameplay, any marketing material since 2014. Now, the fourth piece of news, which seems to have been kind of swept under the radar, is that Dambuster Studios, the development studio who are creating Dead Island 2, are actively advertising several positions for the Dead Island franchise. Every single one of these job postings you can see right here specifically mentions the Dead Island franchise. And not just as a passing comment like, oh, we are the team that works on this. Like, no, this is a role where you will be working on the next Dead Island game. Would be pretty funny if this turned out to be another Dead Island side game instead of the actual Dead Island 2, because the CEO also mentioned in that little shareholders meeting that there is another game that they can't quite talk about that may or may not be Dead Island 2. It was a very confusing statement. But the important thing here is that they are actively hiring for Dead Island 2. They are actively throwing money and resources at this game. So while this does confirm that the game is in active development, what does it mean about how far into development the game is? You know, if they're hiring like senior lead programmers and all that now, does that mean they're relatively early in on the process? Have they maybe lost some people? You know, has COVID gotten in the way and complicated things? I mean, of course it has. I'm not really sure what this means about how far into development they actually are, and just how feasible that, you know, March 2023 release period is. But I just love the fact that Games Radar put out 4 articles covering the same pieces of information, and then they all did the same recap of Dead Island 2's history, where, you know, how Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide were made by Techland, who have now moved on to creating the Dying Light franchise. How Dead Island 2 was announced in 2014 and being developed by Yager Studios, who made Spec Ops The Line, and then 2016 it was handed over to Sumo Digital, the guys behind Little Big Planet 3, and then in 2019 it fell into the hands of Dambuster Studios, an in-house development studio founded by Deep Silver themselves, who were responsible for Homefront: The Revolution. That's 3 different developers, if you don't include Techland originally. It's a very rocky history, but hey, I mean, some guy said the game is in a good state, so maybe there's nothing to worry about. Just a friendly reminder that if you see this game on a website or in a shop that's taking pre-orders with a release date like December 31st, 2022, that's just a placeholder date. They're just trying to get your money. Do not give them your money, okay? Do not pre-order this game. After all, we have literally no idea what the game is actually going to be like. We don't know if they're building upon what Yager Studios and Sumo Digital did. We don't even know what Sumo Digital did in the first place. And we don't know if they're actually starting fresh from the ground up and maybe just getting rid of all of that. I mean, think about it. What information do we actually know about Dead Island 2, and what gameplay have we actually seen? Let's see, you've got the characters, right? Dead Island 2 contains 4 characters. There's Ryan, who is the blunt expert like Sam B. There's Danny, the sharp weapons expert like Shin Mei. John, the throwing expert like Logan. And Ashley, the firearms expert like Perna. And although the game has 4 playable characters, it was announced to support 8-player co-op, with random players dropping in and out like a tiny MMO. They even spoke about 2 different PvP modes, one where there's a military helicopter crash, and in order to get the loot you have to enter a PvP zone and potentially fight other players, and also a bounty system where you can rob shopkeepers and generally just wreak havoc, and then other players get rewards for hunting you down, but if you're the one with the bounty on your head, you're not allowed to fight back. And all of this could be different. They might retain some of the characters due to all the marketing, you know, the promotional material that they made about them, but they could end up going back to that classic 4-player format. There's also Max, who is not voiced by Jack Black, by the way, the main character who gives you all the quests and narrates the story. They even made a little side game called Dead Island Retro Revenge with Max as the playable character, all part of a promotion for Dead Island 2, and he's even featured in the super high-budget official game trailer from E3 2014, so it would make sense for them to keep him in the game at this point, but it's also a very real possibility that they're going to scrap everything and just start fresh. My point is that while all this information and these rumors are fascinating and there's something we should keep in mind and even get excited about, they don't guarantee anything about the final product we're going to receive, or when we're going to receive it, or even if we're going to receive it, okay? So once again, do not pre-order this game. Instead, just hold tight and subscribe to my channel for reliable Dead Island 2 news. And if you want to dive deeper into the history of the game, I made a video all the way back in 2016 that is still the most detailed video about Dead Island 2's gameplay features. It is 30 minutes long and it's just packed with info and actual gameplay, but I did make a 60-second version of that video if you just want to get straight to the important stuff.